Before we get to the episode itself, let's get the elephant out of the room. Yes, this was the only time in the history of The Simpsons that Smithers was actually black instead of being the way he is on the show, which is white. Or I guess yellow in this case. But why'd they do it? Who knows? I don't know, and quite frankly, I don't even think the people who made the show know exactly what happened, or maybe they do. I don't know, but I thought that was kind of something that we should bring up right from the get-go with this particular episode. But okay, this is being updated after I recorded the segment beforehand. I did eventually find out why Smithers was a different color in this particular episode. In his first, as you see in his first appearance, he was mistakenly animated with the wrong color and was made by an African American, by Giorgio Pelusi, the color stylist. David Silverman has claimed that Smithers was always intended to be Mr. Burns' white sycophant, and the staff thought it would be a bad idea to have a black substantive character, so he was switched into his intended color for the next episode, and Smithers' skin tone was later explained as an extreme tan, so there is a reason why Smithers was black in this particular episode, but I wanted to get that out there because when I recorded that part for the first time, I didn't have an idea of why that he was a different color until now. So there you go. That's why that Smithers is the different color. So back to the review. But now that we got that out of the way, let's get to the episode itself. Homer's Odyssey, first broadcasted January 21st, 1990. This was the first episode directed by Wes Archer, who has directed several episodes of the show and is also one of the storyboard artists, and written by Jay Kogen and Wally Wolodarsky, who have written a ton of different comedies in general, different movies in general. Wally Wolodarsky, you see him in a lot of Wes Anderson projects. And in this episode, Bart's class visits the Springfield nuclear power plant, and Homer, anxious to look like he is working, accidentally crashes his cart into a radioactive pipe, causing him to immediately be fired. Depressed and unable to find a new job, he decides to jump off a bridge. His family discovers his plans and tries to stop him, but in the process they are almost run over by a truck. He discovers his new purpose by embarking on a safety crusade and eventually deciding to go after the nuclear plant and holding protest rallies. To end Homer's furor, Mr. Burns offers him a job as the safety inspector with increased salary, which Homer accepts. It's a job that he's had to this very day. And aside from Smithers making his debut in this episode, we are also introduced to characters like Otto, Chief Wiggum, Jasper Beardley, Sam and Larry, Mr. and Mrs. Winfield, Sherry and Terry, and Mr. Burns, with a completely different voice actor than Harry Shearer's. Mr. Burns in this particular episode is voiced by Christopher Collins, who you may remember as the Cobra Commander in G.I. Joe. He's also been in Starscream in the Transformers series, and he actually also did the voice of Moe Szyslak in the first season of The Simpsons. And considering that Hank Azaria is now known for both Moe and Mr. Burns, I never put it together that wasn't Hank Azaria. So that's kind of amazing that this actor did those voices, and I never really knew about it until many years later. But yeah, that's kind of interesting to see there. This is a very good episode, and maybe not one of the show's best episodes from the first season, but it is still a fairly enjoyable one. Homer's quest to find a job and finding a reason to live is a very interesting story for the show to take, and it's amazing how in just one sentence, Homer realizes his true potential in the world. It's the scene where, Homer attempts to kill himself, and the family almost gets run over by the truck, and all he says is, "Boy, this street is dangerous, somebody ought to put a stop sign here." And just like that, Homer realizes it can't end this way, and thus we get to the second half of the story. And I will say this, though, about that particular scene. It has some weird animation. Like you could tell, the voices aren't matching up with the animation at times. Watch the scene in particular, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Look at the way that Marge says the lines, and just look at her mouth movements in general. And look how weird the movements of her mouth and the voice are off.
Oh, Homer, how could you think of killing yourself? We love you.
Yeah, Dad, I love you.
It's also not helping that the fact that as soon as Homer gives that speech where he's talking about kill myself is the last thing I want to do, Marge all of a sudden goes from being very concerned to she's so out of her mind. She has these eyes that are half closed now. And maybe I don't know, maybe they're tired, but it's just I don't know. I found that kind of weird in general, but it's also one of the few episodes where it is just one main story. There isn't another subplot going on in another part of the show, and once Homer loses his job, it's essentially just Homer losing his job and reaching his lowest point, trying to commit suicide and having that breaking point, and then eventually getting a better job at his former employment. And honestly, you could say the opening 5 minutes is a subplot, but honestly, it's never mentioned again after the first 5 minutes. The episode is very good at also dealing with a slight dose of reality in a lot of the episode. Like, one part that I didn't mention in my original review for the episode was the part where, Homer's writing the suicide note, and just the performance by Dan Castellaneta, I never realized it until now, was so good. Like, just listen to the way he's writing this note and how much he's trying so hard to keep it together.
Dear family, I am an utter failure, and you'll be better off without me. By the time you read this, I will be in my watery grave. I can only leave you with the words my father gave me. Stand tall, have courage, and never give up. I only hope I can provide a better model in death than I did in life. Warmest regards, love. Homer J. Simpson.
It's also a good episode in terms of the conclusion. The final 5 minutes are also really good, with, again, a slight dose of reality in which Homer has to decide if he wants to continue his fight against the bad guys or go back to working for them with a better job, a better pay, and a better life for his family. And every single person who's been given a choice like that for Homer has been through that situation. Like, do you want to work for the bad guys and go against everything you say and do and believe in? Or do you want to keep working for them and have a better life for your family in general? And the way it's done here, he's been through this. Everyone's been through something like this, and the episode shows it's not always an easy decision to choose whether to keep fighting for something you believe in or when to cave in and focus more on your family in general. And yeah, it's a really good ending to a really strong message the episode's trying to get across to you. The only real flaw of the episode is that there isn't really a lot of good laughs in here. There are some good funny moments here and there, but nothing that's really laugh out loud funny in general like in other episodes. And again, the animation is not great overall. Like I said, watch that scene with Marge's reaction to Homer after he saves the truck, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Saves it for the truck, but yeah, it's a very good episode. It's a decent episode of the show that works mostly for the story and its message, than more of its laughs and animation. It's an episode that could have been one of the show's best, but as it is, it's worthy enough to watch again. It's definitely one I'd say, definitely check it out.